Hi all, good morning. Are you guys able to hear me? If you guys can hear me loud and clear, would appreciate if you can raise your, yeah, perfect. Or just update a chat or questions. Let's give a minute or two for a couple of other attendees to join as well. See a few people waiting to come online. Alrighty, let me get started now. Good morning, all. Hope you guys are going to, understand about common cyber threat that's currently happening, vector attacks, and what strategies that we can follow so that we can protect our organization from any such cyber threats. Here we got a few more join now. Are you guys able to hear me now, loud and clear? Sweet. So let me get started with the presentation for today's webinar, understanding about current cyber threats and how we can mitigate such cyber threats with ManageEngine Solutions. Sweet. The agenda for today's session is about cybersecurity reports and insights. This particular report was done by ManageEngine team. They've done a global survey across 180,000 plus customers across the global market, and we got this insight, and we're going to have a good understanding about current trends and how we can protect it. And then we're going to talk about security, control, and governance that we can apply in our organization. Then we're going to talk in detail about a specific threat, vector attack, and the strategies that we can apply to mitigate such threats and protect organization from such threats. So what we're going to see is, DoS, DDoS, how we can protect, and brute force attacks, advanced persistence threat, and then ransomware attacks. Obviously, ransomware is quite known to everyone, so we're going to see what strategies we can apply. And email, how we can protect our staff getting email phishing, and compliance. So compliance is a key requirement for a lot of organization now, even for organization to sign up contracts with their customers. So if you guys are working with government agencies or other big corporates, then you need to comply with certain standards, global standards across. So how we can get this compliance report. So we'll have a look at that, and how ManageEngine as a comprehensive IT management solution tools fits in, and how it helps us to protect in the security space. And then it's going to be a question and answer. So feel free to ask any questions at the end of the presentation. Then I'm happy to answer. And if there is anything that needs to be researched and get back to you, or if any specific requirement based on your organization environment, I'm happy to assist after the presentation or after the webinar. All right, let's have a look at the Cybersecurity Insights for 2020. So, everyone know like how the target market looks like. So it's pretty much 40%, 38 to 40% on finances. So asking for ransom or some sort of monetary benefits, or bringing down a reputation. That falls the second. lot of competitions, a lot of we have ransomware on demand services right now. So people buying it in the black market and trying to bring down the reputation, and people going rogue, creating some massive or havoc in an organization. And employees pretty much knowingly and unknowingly, employees being a victim and they being targeted. So they unknowingly having some sort of lean passwords or opening up certain ports. It's mostly a human error and awareness that can be sorted. And rebranding and financial stuff, again, rebranding. So when we do a changeover, when we are rebranding, then possible loopholes are there for attacks. If you guys look into the next insight, it's about the major factor is a lack of cybersecurity awareness that plays the key role. So pretty much all our staff user are supposed to be knowing how they can get attacked. It's good to know how they can get attacked so that they can protect themselves. So awareness, a lot of training, and keep them updated what's happening with zero trust or upcoming the latest security news feeds and stuff. So your staff will be aware of it. And lack of proper cybersecurity. Yes, we have a domain controller. We spend so much money on a firewall. Yeah, we reliant on the firewall. But if you don't track what's happening, what sort of rules there, how many ports open, or is there a specific correlated or there is a specific trend that's happening in our firewall, or generally it takes a lot of time for cyber criminals to place an attack. So if you don't have adequate measures, then there's prone to get attacked. And again, this one, it's mostly prone towards the human error. So yes, as a sysadmin, we know the pain managing multiple devices when we have multiple vendor products in an organization. It's too hard for a single person. It can be a network admin or a security admin or a systems administrator. It's hard for him to be an expert level knowledge on all vendors. Say if an organization using Cisco and they also have other protections like other AV, and they have different server protections, or they also have like Palo Alto or HP level 3 switches, layer 3 switches, then it's hard for a person to manage it all. So we need something which is vendor neutral that can give a good insight about what's happening. And more individuals have easy to access passwords, or they generally make it easier, simpler, so it's easy target for any cyber criminal. And what's getting targeted? Yes, endpoints plays a major role. That's more vulnerable to get attacked. So what's happening with the recent COVID situation? A lot of organization started working, enabling people to work from home. Remote offices is quite common now, new normal. So mostly the laptops, the workstations, or desktops that's used in the office, it's almost on the fourth list right now, but it's pretty much the laptops, the mobile devices, and servers are getting prone to attack. And then the smartphones, and then comes the desktop. Irrespective of the flavor or operating system that we are using, it's pretty much prone to get attacked. And the way more cyber threats are happening is based on emails. That is almost constituting about 50%, 47 to 50%. And then unpatched devices, that's about 34%, which we can be easily averted, protect our devices from keeping it on a regular patching. And then the network ports, open ports, or any ports that's not manned or not properly on a higher visibility, that's where it gets prone to get attacked. Let's have a look at the timelines. Hope if anyone attended last year's virtual Shield event, or AD security webinar or a seminar that we hosted in Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch, this particular slide was quite a highlight. because this particular picture that you guys see will help us to understand how long it takes an organization to understand and discover that attack is happening in their organization. There's a huge loss to an organization. Definitely no IT or no IT manager or a decision maker wanted such security breach to be there in the news the next day. So we need to take all levels of all precautions and all security measures to make sure that we identifying the attack well in advance, as and when, if you guys identify if there is any anomaly that is detected, we should be able to get alert and appropriate remediation needs to happen. If needed, we can apply some sort of automation to make this working. So it's generally taking about 4 to 6 months for an organization to understand and discover there is an attack that's happening in the organization. And credits from Microsoft. This particular picture is from Microsoft, global event. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So, as I told earlier, it's always good to understand the cyber kill chain. So, the way the attack can happen. So let's have a look at it. Are you guys able to see this? This might be quite familiar to you all. So what's happening is, in generally, there's always a recon mission that's happening, on a target. So they collect email IDs, possible ports that's open, probing open ports. It's pretty much internet is prone and a lot of servers available online, a lot of misconfigured instances, say AWS or Azure instance. We read that in news. It's anything that's not properly configured, or if it's open, then people can easily check and take advantage of it, and then the credential theft. Easy to access, easy to guess passwords, and so those are credentials that's there, and something the credential that are stored open. People can have a look at it, and if they have access to it, then they have full access to your organization sensitive data. And the other important aspect is about your insider threats and external threats. External threats, at least we know we can have some sort of known factor where we can put appropriate measures. But insider threats are really, really difficult to discover, because they are a trusted user within your organization who has access to your domain. They have access to your corporate data, organization sensitive data. So it's always good to apply appropriate measures to understand the insider threats. And then what's happening next is weaponization. How they try to identify a backdoor access to your environment, infrastructure. And then how they gain access, it's pretty much a delivery. So we already saw email being a major proportion. So email is a primary mode where they deliver the attacks, and then social media, mobile, web, USB devices. Again, it's something that they need physical access to the organization, or they need to connect USB via VPN. And again, SaaS, any sort of cloud configuration or cloud instance that open in the internet, that's the way they deliver the attack. And then how they exploit and understanding the vulnerabilities, we already checked it out. Laptops being key, it's a vulnerable devices, endpoints. So operating system, applications, infrastructure, network, and then the person. So they target people who has lean passwords, easy to guess passwords. So that's how they exploit the vulnerability. And they install a ransomware or a malware. And once it's done, then it gets into the C2, control and command. So they take advantage of your infrastructure. Either they use encryption as a mean to completely encrypt and ask for ransom to get it all sorted, or they can delete huge files, or they can sell the data. P2 theft they can happen, then they can sell it across to the other competitors, and they can exfiltrate any sort of sensitive data from an organization, like codes or any sort of sensitive RFP or any other proposals that you guys working with your client. Those things can get stolen, and encryption for ransomware. So this is must for anyone in our IT space to understand how the actual, the way it's happening, so that we can kill this particular kill chain from each and every stages. It's always good to kill it from the beginning stage, and that's where we're going to look at how we can put some appropriate measure so that we can keep our organization protected. Sweet, and this is kind of a good insight for what sort of course of action that we can take in which stage of our kill chain, what phases of our cyber attack. So this particular insight is taken from Lockheed Martin, and it's a white paper how we can drive defense to our organization. So this is pretty much the kill chain that's explained on the left side, but the right side matrix is what I would suggest you guys to have a look at it. So if during the recon mission, the way we can identify or detect and deny is purely based on the web analytics. So we need to have some sort of machine learning or artificial intelligence that can quickly understand any sort of normal behavior and understand any anomalies, abnormal behavior. And the way we can deny, it's purely based on access control list that we can apply in our firewall using network configuration management. We can apply this configuration across to multiple vendor devices based on the credentials configured. And then comes the NIDS, so Network Intrusion Detection System, or NIPS, Network Intrusion Prevention System. So these are all the two ways where we can detect it during the weaponization phase. And during delivery part, we have to keep our users vigilant. Hey, there's already a prone attack, there's an attack that happened, or there is a server that got compromised. Please be vigilant that if any such emails, take care of it, do not, and keep our SOC team updated about it. And enable proxy filters. So have a reverse proxy. Don't have any of your servers published. If there is a secure gateway or kind of a forwarding server, is all possible ways that we can protect it. And then the exploitation, and we have inline AVs and queuing, so we can understand and we can slow the attack down or make it harder for any cyber criminal to do further damage. And exploitation all about host, right? So it's about computers, it's laptops, your endpoints, mobile devices. So we should have an appropriate host intrusion detection system and patching. Patching plays a vital role. So once we have all our operating systems, endpoints, firmwares for your networking device all patched up, then we already protecting, because a lot of vendors in the market, they're investing a lot of money in making sure that they are delivering that in terms of their firmware. But if there is a separate licensing cost available, that's where ManageEngine come and play, how we can fix that gap and making sure that irrespective of what vendor you guys are using, where we can apply ManageEngine Solutions to understand this and enable patching is happening across multi-vendor and multi-environment situations. And then DEP is an option to, during the destruction stage, how we can apply DEP options up here. And again, installation, gone back to host intrusion detection system and any router devices, or make sure that's all, it's kind of application control and device control that we put in place in our organization will help us in making sure our AVs are up to date. It's no compromise in terms of having an outdated AV. So there should be a scheduled scan, and we can't rely on our users. They might be quite busy, or our staff might be quite held up. They won't be able to do this. So how we can automate all this tasks in your organization based on your IT security policies, so that can be achieved accordingly. And during control and command is very crucial, critical stage where almost a cyber criminal have a complete control in your organization infrastructure. That's where we need to apply multiple strategies, where NIDS, so network intrusion, firewall, ACL risk, so whitelisting, black geofencing, make sure that you're geolocking your endpoints, and target as something like you can slow down further broadcast or some sort of storming that's happening, then we can slow it down. And also DNS redirect, so register with some well-known DNS providers so that we are well protected. And actions on objective, it's pretty much auditing what's happening, event auditing. So audit log management, and applying some sort of quality of service so that we make sure that our production environment is not getting impacted, and we are restricting people who need to access on certain websites or certain services that are prone to get attacked can be on a limited bandwidth. And then honeypot accounts. Honeypot accounts, it's really hard. So we need to have very high visibility on any such honeypot accounts, like if your service accounts or any accounts, generic account that you guys created to as per the application or a particular solution requirement might have created, and there might be XYZ accounts. If most of the organization, it's really hard for them to understand how many accounts or such privileged accounts, honeypot accounts are there, and how it's getting managed. And generally, the passwords are set to never expire. That is a very, very big risk. So we should be able to understand and identify or discover all the service accounts and what sort of privilege it has, and how we can rotate the password without a server's interruption to your business productive applications. So that's where we can help. Let me move on to the next slide. So we'll do the strategies. So this foundation is quite common. Most of the organization might be already adopted to this common cybersecurity controls. So if you guys already have a malware defense and web browser protection, and you have a good visibility and control on your network ports, protocols, and services used, you have a visibility on any rules that's set in the firewall configuration that's happening, how it is fully monitored, to avoid any disruptions or network disruptions, outages, or prone to attack. And you guys are in a good shape where we are already under basic foundation. And data recovery plays a critical role, crucial role, making sure that we have an on-site backup, off-site backup, and a cloud backup, and any other backup that's needed based on the business criticality and for data retention. And the way we can control it, inventory and control of hardware. So you should have an appropriate measures on your asset, IT asset lifecycle management. Have a complete inventory of what's managed, what's not managed, what data is shared to each and every endpoint, and what sort of file access control is provided. And then inventory and control of softwares, because software is a role. Generally, people ignore software, but software has a major role in terms of give advantage to cyber criminals. We should have appropriate cyber application control. So we need to whitelist, blacklist, and update any prohibited software, and have protection software that's available, and any other access workflow that we can provide for your staff to request access for software that is prone to risk if needed. And continuous vulnerability. So we need to have a complete vulnerability assessment on our infrastructure. We should have some sort of analytics on how things are happening. So understanding any sort of assessing of vulnerabilities in our network. It's a bit expensive when we are involving a pen test or a red team to come and do it for an organization, but considering New Zealand market, it's mostly a small to medium organization, plays a major market share, like almost 80 to 85% market share. So on those situations, we need to have some sort of an application or a software that can continuously assess our vulnerabilities and give us a report so that we can take appropriate measures. And control use of administrator, it's pretty much your security adherence and governance on such alerts that's coming in. Now let's have a look at the organization level. It pretty much goes on to a mid-market segment and enterprise level. But security awareness as training is quite common across any organization. And incident response and management, if there is a security breach, that has to be and alerted to all personnel in the IT team and also the management team. So because there is a brand reputation involved, so we can take appropriate measures and get things addressed right away. If needed, try applying an automation so that if there is a breach notified, we can disable a port, block a device, or update, or fence it, or blacklist that particular IP or a subnet or particular country if needed. if you're getting continuous attack from a particular country. And application software security plays a critical role, so we should have appropriate application software security and pen test and red team if needed to understand and assess any sort of vulnerability in our environment. So how we can get this done? Mostly employing the right tools, creating awareness and recruiting. So pretty much 90% of the issue can be sorted with applying the right solutions and tools, and 8% employing the right tools. And you guys can see where we can apply the tools. Firewalls plays a crucial role, 40%. So make sure that your firewall is highly protected. If license needed to be applied, appropriate license needed to be there, like advanced persistent threat, or mostly the soft, firewall vendors charge for licensing on any, say if there is a stateful packet inspection that needs to be added to your application, or deep packet inspection, then it's an additional cost to you guys. So, but that can be applied in a different way. And endpoints, mobile and network, this is the area that we need to focus and apply the right tools in protecting these. All right, let's have a look into our DoS and DDoS. Created a major havoc in New Zealand exchange. How we can monitor. So there's a two options given here. One is a DoS attack. The other one is a distributed denial of service. So how we can protect it? It's always it's good to understand any spike in our traffic. If there is a lot of monitor the web application. If there is any sort of anomaly or a spike that's happening in our network, and if the source is from a particular IP address or a location, then we have to apply appropriate access control. And again, make sure all your firewall routers, switches are up to date with the latest security patches, and update intrusion detection system, or IPS, that will detect your unusual traffic. This can be applied in our security solutions as well. So even if you don't have IPS or IDS enabled in your network level devices, can be applied on a software level and check, and it can give that insight to you guys. Again, let's have a look at brute force. Sorry, let me go back. Again, I'll give you more insights about it. There's multiple ways where we can prevent and avoid DoS and DDoS attacks. So one is making sure our firewall. So we have a firewall analyzer that analyzing the firewall rules, your configurations in your firewall. And it gives us a good insight what's happening, how things are configured, and if any breach or if any anomaly detected, and we have an action. So it's pretty much an alerting tool. And then we have the network configuration management, what the credential, SNMP credential, or your firewall or networking device credential configured. We can apply a script irrespective whether it's Cisco, Juniper, or Palo Alto, or HP layer 3 switches, or Dell, irrespective what vendor you guys are using. Once the appropriate credential, once the device is managed in our application, and if appropriate credentials are configured, then a network admin will know, network architect will know what configuration that we do, or what command that we need to pass it on when such alert trigger happens, such security breach alert. Then this particular configuration can be applied to that particular firewall. So if a particular IP address is creating a trouble, or a particular location is creating a trouble, then we can take appropriate measures, blocking that IP, or blacklisting that IP, or geofencing it, or blacklisting that particular location, so that we avoid traffic coming into your network. So this is the best way to get it addressed. And any such DoS attacks, it's purely based on correlation, right? Like this, there's so many other attacks can happen. So we need to understand that correlation, and our application has an ability. It has an out-of-box known threats till date. It's already there. You just pick and choose what needs to be alerted and what action needs to be performed, then we can get it done. Let's move on to brute force attack. It's quite common. So what's happening is, it's pretty much all about passwords. So if there is a multiple login attempts, and all of a sudden multiple failed login attempts, and all of a sudden there is a success. So there's about 50 failed login attempts, and 50 first attempt is a success attempt. Then that is an anomaly. That is a correlation that we should take appropriate measures. It's mostly from an external source, and also applying a two-factor authentication or a multi-factor authentication. and or backup verification code. So to make sure if people have access trouble, then we can apply the other layers of security. So this is always recommended, and I've seen quite common, like with a lot of applications, banking applications that we use, or our Gmail account, or cloud accounts. People try to access it and try to reset, and we get alerts. When we have MFA or 2FA, that helps us protecting it. And limit login attempts. So don't let anything more than 4, 5, or pretty much aligning to any banking application. So they have a stringent way where we can access our financial details. So similar way we can apply a similar stringent measures on people accessing our corporate sensitive data. And periodic password resets and rotations, it's highly recommended. That's not just for your users, or few organizations might be using labs, and even the labs activity can be performed with our privileged identity and access management tools. That includes even identifying and discovering all your domain accounts used for running services, and rotating or resetting your service account passwords without a service interruption to your mission critical application or a production service. So that's the key highlight where we can ensure our password compliance in place, and introduce captcha. I've seen good inputs about a robot saying I'm not a robot and getting access to it. But again, making it bit more applying some sort of intelligence before gaining access to the application will give that additional layer of security. That's where we can avoid brute force. And ransomware, it's quite common. I believe, I'm sure that all the organization might have adequate measures in place in terms of backups and protection. So what's needed? Stay on top of updates. Make sure that operating system or software that includes, it's all up to date, because a lot of software vendors or hardware vendors working on enhancing or addressing the vulnerabilities that's there in their current build or a version. So, and again, it's challenging, because even cyber criminals are getting very smarter. They're trying all possible means. So it's always good to keep our endpoints, operating systems, softwares, and other hardwares up to date. And again, user awareness and training. Make sure that don't let anyone to applying appropriate spam filter in your mail server, and also have some sort of auditing in your Exchange Online or Exchange server. So make sure that your mail flow is properly tracked, auditors, and applying appropriate spam filters, or protecting your emails. If something's wrong, then we can take appropriate actions. So SPF, DMARC, these are all the key entries. So make sure it's all done, it's appropriately updated, and there's multiple ways where we can update the DMARC, just tracking it out, or we can take actions and avoid. So get yourself matured in terms of the DMARC maturity level as well. And taking regular backups, it's the key factor for strategy for protecting from ransomware. So we don't need to pay a ransom to any cyber criminal. So if we have 3-2-1 rule for maintaining backups, so 3 copies of data in 2 different mediums. So pretty much, I always recommend the way we I've consulted for the past 20 years. It's always recommended to have on-site backup, yes. And for any sort of disaster recovery or natural disaster, then it's good to have a different location. So one is off-site backup, can be in your data center or can be in your service provider's data center, and then one in the cloud as well, just in case if the whole option is not available, the physical access to the location is not available, the data is there in the cloud in someone else cloud cluster where we can download and work from anywhere. So your corporate or business organization data is protected, and we don't have to pay ransom. We might lose a days of productivity, but still we can roll back. And even this applies to your AD as an application. So we have a solution recovery manager that ensures your whole application, the Active Directory, can be backed up, and we can do very granular level restore options. That includes your native Active Directory or your Office 365. And identify the patterns. So if you guys see 100 files that's getting changed in a minute and from a particular login, then there's something fishy. It's not humanly possible. So some sort of software that's creating it. So if you understand, identify such correlated events in your organization, then we can protect it. If you can predict that this anomaly is happening, so before it gets into a huge disruption, we can make sure that particular access has been denied. And if there is a device that gets compromised, the device can be totally, we can disable a network port, or we can shut down the devices or block all access to that devices, and that device can be isolated or quarantined until it's get cleared up. So pretty much disconnect, clear, clean up, data recovery, and report the cybercrime. So we got to get this treated and addressed. So let me move on to the other quite common one where most of our staff gets impacted. So it's pretty much the way we can avoid this is user awareness and training, and also implementing a user entity behavior analytics. So it's always good to understand what is the security rating for our staff as well as the external user who are interacting with the organization. So we need to have some sort of ranking user entity behavior, understanding their analytics, and any high-risk users who have more access to confidential folders and files, or who's very active, hyperactive in our organization, accessing the business-sensitive data. So those sort of insights, we need to get it with our user entity behavior analytics, and that's where, based on that, we can take appropriate stringent controls, governance measures, and make sure that people are having appropriate access or right limiting or role-based access permission given accordingly, and have it all aligned as per your IT strategies. Training is very, very critical awareness. So it's always good to have that learning and development and keep your staff up to date with any sort of threats that's happening in the market and how they can protect themselves. And then comes the advanced persistent threat. It's quite common. Again, it's based on access privilege and sensitive resource within the user. So the way we can protect it is, again, based on user entity behavior analytics and take appropriate remediation. So once you get a security breach or anomaly alert, apply an appropriate configuration or an application control or a device control, or apply a different configuration to that user profile so that he is governed and protected from any breaches. And updating our antivirus and firewall programs, and patching very regularly is always recommended. And you can see the correlation, what we can use, possible backdoor accounts or suspicious software that's getting installed, which is not, if it is a prohibited software, and if it's getting installed in our organization, that's where the auditing plays a critical role. Your hardware auditing and software auditing have a report that comes in. If any anomaly or any abnormal or a not to use software that you guys detect in the report, then that's a cause to concern. So we got to take action accordingly. So where you guys can see the attack types and the strategies on the right side. From ManageEngine, so now what we are going to see is how ManageEngine as an organization, as you all know that ManageEngine is a global brand, has about 180,000 plus customers, organization relying on ManageEngine comprehensive IT management solution, and 5 out of 3 customers in the globe using ManageEngine tools one way or the other. So the way ManageEngine solutions would help in enhancing your security posture is applying a user entity behavior analytics across to understand your internal, external threats, and if it's from a particular device or a particular entity, then that can be identified. And most of our security solutions have a built-in machine learning and artificial intelligence module built into it, and it has a known threat database updated. So we can always understand, okay, this the out-of-box similar pattern that's available. We can pick and choose. It's easy to use those particular correlations or attacks and create alerts based on your organization security requirements. And account compromise and data exfiltration. So we have P2 compliance, and we can protect even in a mobile devices or a Surface Book or a MacBooks. it's easy for us to, if there is a corporate sensitive data is there, it's easy for us to put an airdrop or use a WhatsApp or Bluetooth to transfer some sensitive data. Even that can be protected with modern device management or unified endpoint management as an ability to apply a profile or a policy or content management to distribute corporate confidential data via secured way, so that that cannot be printed, shared, or even airdrop, or cannot be moved over to other application to application transfers. So there's a high level of protections to safeguard your data. So let's start with one by one from the key segments. So Log 360 is a key solution. It's a security incident and event management solution. Gives a good understanding of our Active Directory reporting and also non-AD environment alerting and reporting. So event management across your networking devices, or if you guys are having a mainframe or a database. So across your environment, AD or a non-AD should be able to get a security incident and event management. So the tool has an integrated compliance management. If you guys wanted to comply with P2, GDPR, or ISO 27000, or any other compliance that needed for the organization, even custom compliance report. Say New Zealand has its own New Zealand IT security manual, so NZISM. So how to comply our organization aligned to NZISM, or based on the government that's asking us to comply with certain way, we need to protect the data, store the data, and stuff like that. And cloud adoption is quite common with a lot of organizations. So how to protect our Office 365, and there was an outage for 4 hours yesterday from Office 365 and Teams. So how we can avoid this, how we can proactively update if there is a failure of if a particular channel is down, or a tenancy is down, or if something is not working, or if it's an issue from the vendor as a Microsoft, then we can proactively alert and notify our users, hey, there's a downtime, before even people start complaining, and reducing your help desk calls, and auditing all your networking devices, SQL and web servers, and understanding your user privilege activity and monitoring, auditing your exchange, and protecting your data, and file access, like any sort of stale files. It's not used for more than 6 months or 3 months, it's going to cost so much to the organization. So how we can clean up the data and make sure that we are having only the vital data that's necessary for the business to run, and all the other data is getting into an archive or a cold storage, and based on the org's requirements. So we have file access or file analysis that will help, and data security plus that helps in real time auditing our whole ecosystem, whole environment, based on the known alerts, and it gives us an alert in real time, and where we can apply remediation as well. So you can apply a script based on a particular alert, and that script or a configurate that can be applied to that endpoint, or a profile, or a user profile, or a computer profile. What we see on the right side is about our event log analyzer, our log 360 components. It's an architecture. So you have log collecting from your network components, firewall, IDS, IPF, wireless access, or any devices appear. That includes even your AWS resources or Azure. Any applications, any known log sources can be integrated with the applications, but that has to be user parsable logs. Then the application has an ability to analyze the logs and give it as an insightful report for us to take appropriate action. And security tools with vulnerability assessment, scanning, and threat intelligence solutions. So if you guys already invested in some threat intelligence solutions like FireEye or Nessus, then that can be integrated. So we leverage that database, that inputs to the solution, and gives us a holistic approach towards strengthening your security posture. And also AVs, data lake prevention solutions, and custom log parsing. So any in-house application that you guys are using, or a developed application that you guys wanted to track the logs and make sure that you guys have insightful reports. Say any human readable or user parsable logs can be imported to the tool, or scheduled to import to the tool, and where we get the output in this way. So we have an event response system. There is a correlation engine that automatically correlate based on the known threats, and that gives us a good insight and reports. And there is a threat intelligence system that's already built into it. and machine learning based user entity behavior analytics. So understanding our organization, how things are behaving. So having a normal behavior report maintained, and anything abnormal or anomaly can be reported, and we can execute script or automate a workflow management with incident response system. And as an application, it's all going to be the data, so that we can apply multiple layer of security. We can apply a secured encryption for your data, and the data can be fully protected. It's going to be your database, or you can apply that database in your own SQL environment if needed, MS SQL environment. So this is about, so we saw the architecture, we saw where and what way ManageEngine can help. Let's have a look at this. So under Unified Endpoint Management, we have vulnerability assessment, automated patching, chaos mode, so you can have multiple apps that's available that will ensure that only needed apps can be used. If you are using it in a construction site, or for example, if it's used in a tourism site or unmanned location where visitors can come and use it for their own needs, then we need to have those endpoints highly in a protected mode. Even tracking battery level and making sure that appropriate current feed can be given or triggered, or we can send someone to make sure that if there is an issue with the connection, that can be even fixed. Geofencing, geo tracking, data protection for your endpoints. And USB device control is quite common, so that's how most of the data leak happens. How we can control that, and if any connection or if something is removed from an endpoint, we need to get an alert. And security, email security, browser security, and application control or a device control where we can apply. And under log management, we have a comprehensive threat management and SIM solution. So across your network, correlative and actionable alert in real time, detect, alert, and remediate. So we can do that MDF action in the air. And auditing your hybrid environment, say it your native Active Directory or your Exchange, any changes to your Exchange online or on premises, and anything to do with Azure or Office 365 auditing or data security, all can happen in real time. So you have a good understanding of your hybrid environment from a single pane of glass. That's the highlight of this particular tool. And back up your critical data and applications on a periodic frequency. So make sure that your data is getting backed up. Say you hold your whole AD Office 365 can be backed up, and we can do granular level restore, fine-grained granular level restore. Even a single object can be restored. And protecting your passwords, password protection, and enabling self-service. So VPN become a quite common source right now. How we can ensure VPN can have an MFA? We can do that with our solution. So when you guys have a hybrid environment, still using a directory sync for your native AD to sync with your Office 365, we can apply self-service and password synchronizer with an MFA, so that people are adding that additional layer of security. And user entity behavior analytics, that's detecting the alert time, counts, pattern, anomalies, and risk score is mentioned. So we can do a review and auditing based on the risk for high risk individuals, high risk equipments, devices, and we can take appropriate measures based on that report. And cloud security for your Azure, AWS platforms, or Google Cloud platforms, or Salesforce cloud infrastructure. So how you can understand what's happening, what's open across cloud service providers, so we can get it all in a single pane of glass. And Office 365 for managed secure compliance of Office 365. Even the security element can be managed with our ManageEngine solution. It's pretty much filling in the gap. Microsoft being a big player, they have a lot of options, but still there are a few key elements like templates, randomizing passwords, or doing some sort of bulk actions are all missing even in the Office 365. And things get changed quite often, but when it's all integrated, we just do one task and let's get automatically replicated in your native AD or your Office 365, and appropriate Teams configuration set, Skype configuration set, link configuration set. It's all can be done. And PAM 360 for privileged identity and access management, for preventing account misuse, and first-in-class remote control, where you can shadow, you can record all the sessions when you are giving access. If you guys are giving your protection, mission critical servers or application to your third-party contractor or vendor, you don't have to share the whole resource with a full privilege. So you have an ability to apply an access control and give them an appropriate access via web URL, and whatever they do gets recorded. And if you have to revert it, we can revert it with some sort of backup setup, and we can go back and see what they are doing. And you can also shadow the sessions if needed, and you can check in and check out only for a necessary maintenance window. We don't have to give them full open access for any of your contractors or third-party vendors. So all those things, privileged identity access, can be managed with our PAM 360 and password manager solutions. And then the ITOM, IT Operation Management Solution, has a Op Manager, and it's available both on premises as well as a cloud-based network monitoring and application monitoring, server monitoring solution. So we have NetFlow Analyzer to understand the flow of your interfaces in your organization and take appropriate measures with advanced security analytics, so ASAM. So it has a lot of attacks based on the NetFlow traffic, and that can be tracked and you can remediate it. And network configuration is to configure, to manage the configuration of your devices. So if somebody is going to do a simple port modification or updating a VLAN, can create a big havoc in an organization. So before letting a user or a admin to do the changes, it can be alerted to the other people, and if needed, there can be a baseline configuration, and that baseline configuration can be reverted to avoid any huge downtime. And again, the challenge is not having a accountability or ownership when we're logging into a networking device as a firewall. Generally, we use administrator login or a common generic login. In that way, we don't know who's doing what, and there will be a blame game when there is a huge downtime or a production issue. So that can be averted with our network configuration manager. And firewall analyzers to analyze your firewall, irrespective what firewall you guys are using. You can compare the rules across your firewall and take appropriate measures. It's available as an out-of-box widget as well, so you know how your firewall configurations across multiple vendors. So these are all the areas where ManageEngine can help. And finally, the compliance in terms of security auditing. All our tools assist comes with an out-of-box security compliance framework. And if you guys needed some sort of custom configuration, custom compliance configuration based on your internal auditing or an external auditing, we have an ability to use a custom reporting with a tool to create our own compliance report based on the necessary and requirement. And this helps with forensics if there is any issue that happens. And it's pretty flexible with our analytic tools as well. All right, that's pretty much end of the webinar today. And any questions, more than welcome now. I'm happy to answer that questions. Let me make everyone unmute. Unmute all. Any questions for me, team? Please feel free to email it across to sales@manageengine.co.nz. We are happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Any questions? All good. Much appreciated. Much appreciated your time being on this webinar, and hope you guys get a good insight about understanding the common cyber threats and strategies that we can apply to protect and strengthen your security posture of your organization. Much appreciated. Thanks for that. Thanks for being available. And please feel free to reach out to us at sales@manageengine.co.nz. We're always here to help and assist our customers and our reseller channel partners. Cheers. Have a good day. Bye-bye.